Hello, welcome to The Lonely Show. I'm your host, John Maloney, and in this episode I've brought on Faiffy, who will join us shortly, but I have brought on a new regular, Andrew Shatkin. Now, as for our guest...
Thanks very much, Peter. I always look forward to a interchange.
Absolutely.
Because that's how I learn.
Absolutely. Now, as for our guest, he's from Pennsylvania, he's a psychologist and an author. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Faust Ruggiero.
Thanks so much for having me aboard today. It's a pleasure.
Anytime. So, how's life?
Well, it's different. It was slow for a while. The pandemic hit, and now it's revving up again, and everything's starting. But over here, they're talking about the possibility of a pretty deep recession coming. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Okay, cool. And have you been up to much recently?
Well, I just finished the second book. The first book was called The Fix Yourself Handbook. We did that about two and a half years ago. And I just finished writing the second book in this series, which is called The Fix Your Anxiety Handbook. That should be out July, August. Now, it's in the editing process, and those folks have it, and then we'll take it from there and hopefully be out before the end of summer.
Okay, great. Now, Faiffy has now entered the studio. So,
Sorry about that. Hey.
Great to have you here, Faiffy.
Hello there. How are you all?
I'm okay.
All right.
I'm a bit of a...
That's cool. So, Faiffy, we have Faust Ruggiero, who is a psychiatrist and also an author. Is there anything you want to ask him?
What inspired you to become a psychiatrist?
Oh, I'm a psychologist. The only difference
Sorry, psychologist.
Sorry, my bad.
We don't prescribe the meds, but that's something I did since I was.
No drugs.
No drugs. I'm one of the boring therapists, I guess.
It's okay.
But I've been advising people and listening to people since I was a kid. It's just naturally what came to me. So, it's now been a over 40-year career, and I'm still having fun with it.
Okay, cool. So, is the work you do mostly in person, or do you just do this remotely as well?
No, most of mine is right here in the office. It's what's trending now. People doing a lot of online counseling, but I don't see that ever being as efficient and as personal as having someone right in the office where they can just sit and relax in a chair with you, and you can see everything and feel everything. So I do maybe 10% of those sessions online. People that can't come in, people that are in different parts of the country or different other countries. So I'll do some of that, but most of it's here at the office.
Okay, nice. Now, I've also heard you're an author. What books have you written?
That's what I was saying. I wrote the Fix Yourself Handbook, which came out in December of 2019. And then the new book, the Fix Your Anxiety Handbook, should be out by the end of the summer. So it'll be the second book in the series.
Okay. Hope you don't mind me asking, but what specifically do you cover in the book you've written?
The book I've written is designed to actually go into, it's got 36 different chapters, all of them with a different problem that people face. It could be anger, it could be depression, it could be anxiety, as I'm doing now, people pleasing, all different kinds of things, victimization, all things that people are dealing with. And I provide in each chapter something for them so they can understand what the problem's all about and how it got so bad. And at the end of the chapter, I give them the exact steps that they can use to correct that problem. So that the first book went over very well, and the publisher is now asked for a second book. So that's coming out under the same design, again, by the end of the summer.
Okay, great. So,
can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay. What are the names of these books again? I didn't catch them.
Yeah.
And tell me what the subject of the books, because I didn't catch that. And tell me also, if you want to answer this question, how long it took you to write these two books?
Sure. The Fix Yourself Handbook was the first installment in the series. That was designed to take many problems. There's 36 different problems. And again, things like anger, honesty, your emotions getting out of control, things like that. A chapter on everything, 36 chapters. And then the advice at the end of every chapter that tells you how to deal with that problem. I kept the chapters very, very small, 5 pages or so. So you get the information, you go right to what you want to do to fix it. So the design went over very well. That was the first book. That, since it was the first one and I was learning how to write for publication, it took about 2 years to do. The second book now, the Fix Your Anxiety Handbook, that's designed just to deal with anxiety because there's so much of that going around the world right now. That one took about, when it's from start to finish, I'm going to say about 7 months to do. And that'll come out in as I said, in the end of summer.
Okay.
Peter, go ahead. You're the host.
Okay, that's great. What do you like about being a psychologist?
Well, I love people. It depends on who you meet in this world. Some people just can't deal with other people. I still love being around people. I love listening to them, learning all about them. I still find people fascinating. I haven't gotten to the point where I think I've heard it all. I hear that from people, but I haven't. So everyone comes in the office as just a new version, another person to meet, another person to learn from. I can't tell you that I've ever met a person or counseled a person that I didn't learn from myself. So I'm still having a lot of fun with it. I'm still enjoying the people, and people are still colleagues. So I guess I'm doing okay.
Great. What have been the high and low points as being a psychologist?
Well, the high points are just going in the office and being with people every day. Writing the book was another high point. Low points, I think, I don't really experience low points, but you get some tragedies that people are dealing with. And I've dealt with a lot of different things. People who have lost children, people whose family members have been murdered, those types of things. Those get very difficult, and sometimes I've even had the children in my office when the people come in, and then a car accident or a fire or something, and you get word that the child perished. Those are the low points. Those are tough to deal with, but it comes with the turf, I guess.
I have a question, Faust. Peter, I don't mean to interrupt. I really don't mean to interrupt you.
It's fine, Andrew. Ask as many questions you like.
Okay. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty, Faust. How much do people actually read about any at all?
Do they read? People are reading more than they used to, but the change, Andrew, is that they're reading smaller amounts. The way they're reading has changed.
Can they focus? Is there sufficient focus in our reading public to read?
That's what's changed, and it changed because people are going too fast. It changed because of the internet and things like where you can go on Google and skim something, Facebook, those kinds of things. I call it microwave learning. That's what kind of my own phrase that I've coined. And that's why my chapters are so small, because when I did the research, when people were reading 40, 50-page chapters in self-help books, they weren't getting anything out of it. They'd come away with the same cliches. So I kept it 4 or 5 pages. People will stick by for 4 or 5 pages, and then be told, now just do these things, and you can start dealing with the problem. But if you make it any longer, it becomes tedious for them, and you're right, they'll put it down.
Let me, Peter. I don't mean to interrupt you. I really don't.
It's all right, Andrew.
It's your show.
No, I don't mind actually.
Could you have an explanation as to why a book like War and Peace and Moby Dick, people read this fairly complex material by comparison with today? It was fairly complex material, correct?
Yep.
Was that a more elite reading public?
Yeah, that particular book would be. It'll start with the elite, and then everyone will want to read it. But really, those that understand it, you're talking about the reading public.
Was the reading public at that time more elite? Better
as readers, yes, absolutely. Another way to look at that is to look at the way people are speaking today. At that time, those of us that come from where we're a little older, there was a proper way to speak. There's a proper way to write. When you look at the young people coming out of school today and the way they're writing, they're not even writing in complete sentences anymore. They're writing as they think. They're writing as they text. The rules are changing. Language has gotten to the point where its formality is moving to the side just a bit, and people are using a lot more so-called urban language, if you will.
Slang, right? People often in America, there's a big movement to speak in slang.
There is. And unfortunately, the reading, then the reading always kind of takes a back seat because, those people aren't the ones writing, or if they're writing, it's really writing for the internet, write a blog, write something on Facebook or something like that. They're not putting together complete thoughts anymore. And you can even see it, as a writer, if I watch a television show, I'll just look at it and say, my God, who wrote this thing? Because, as I always say, they don't connect the dots anymore. The language is all over the place, and it's hard to even follow it. But everybody's mind is going so fast that fragmented little bits and pieces are making sense to them in some way.
Go ahead, Peter. Let's hear from you.
Okay. Do you travel often?
Not as much as I used to with the pandemic, but before, if I can, I will, sure.
Okay. Is there anywhere in the world that you haven't been to yet, but you really want to go to?
Oh, there are a number of places. I know there are just so many places. I'm a nature person, so I love to see the Galapagos or different parts of Africa. I've been to Europe several times, but I haven't been everywhere. Would love to do that. South America, you name it. But again, it's almost like when I talk about being with different types of people, you learn, and as you travel, your horizons broaden. There's more information coming in. You see different cultures, and then you have, your reference points to what's going on in the world, become enhanced. So traveling, if you're doing it to learn, is wonderful. If you're learning it just to go and if you're traveling just go from beach to beach, you don't learn a whole lot. But when I went to Germany, for example, a few years back, I actually stayed with a family, so I was able to live with those folks for a couple of weeks and experience their culture and the way they did things. Everything from their church to their social clubs to a few cities. I saw the ruins, but with firsthand people. It's just a great way to learn. And again, as you learn, then you can teach better and you can write better. You can do all those kinds of things.
Do you believe, Faust, that we are moving, it's not my personal opinion, from a print medium society to an image medium society?
There's no doubt about that. I think, people are trying to merge the two. But when you listen to people, what they're doing is they're listening to podcasts and they're listening to whatever they can find on the media. It's not a bad thing, except they don't vet their sources very well. They don't look, they hear it online and they take it as gospel. And I've always said, find out who's saying it, find out where their information comes, all those sorts of things. If you're going to, wherever you're going to get your information, try to be, tenacious enough to look for the source, but they don't. And the other thing about, when you read, you have to go slower. It's a slower way to learn, but you cover more of the right ground. They skip all that in the visual press. They go real fast.
Put your point here in, Peter. You're the show host.
Oh no, it's fine. I do have another question though. If your mind was like an island, what would it look like?
Well, many people's minds are like islands. That's what happens when you isolate. That's what happens when the parameters that you live in are very small. I don't know that I'm the island type of person. I like to broaden my perspective. So, if I lived on an island, it would be one that had a boat to get to shore so I can keep on connecting.
Okay. Cool. What's your favorite drink?
Drink as in alcohol, you mean, or just drink?
Any kind of drink.
It doesn't matter. I'm a kombucha guy or cranberry juice, something like that.
Okay. Cool. Faiffy, do you have any questions for Faust?
Yes. Sorry, I'm being a little bit quiet. I didn't want to interrupt anybody.
No, it's fine.
First, I got plenty of questions. A psychologist. I actually studied a little bit of psychology throughout my life, and part of the reason, I used to go to therapy. I've seen from my ex-therapist, a lot of practices they'll use to help, a lot of techniques and such. One technique I like to use is writing. When you're dealing with your clients in person, do you see a lot of writing or sort of expression like art and, some sort of expression?
It's a great question. And not only do I use it in my counseling, we call it journaling, but if you're reading anything that I wrote, when you get down to those steps at the end of the chapters, I always encourage people to journal. Not only because the writing helps you express yourself, but if you're a visual learner, you're talking at things, so you can hear yourself, but you also see it and you reinforce it with your writing. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to explore yourself, so to speak.
Wow. Nice.
Oh, I'm sorry, Faiffy. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. Go on.
It's okay. I write a lot. If I'm not writing, I use a whiteboard to have me remember things. I use stuff to help me express my emotions because I'm not that great of a talker. You see that through my stutter because there's a lot coming out of my mind.
I didn't think you stuttered.
Or I have this going through.
Oh, really?
What is, you don't have to express the name, but just say a character. What is your favorite character you'd like to see every day? Or your favorite, you don't have a favorite, but the most interesting character you see.
They're all interesting. And that's kind of one of the traps that therapists get involved in is that's my favorite kind of person. And what happens is you look for that. And then when someone else comes in, you're not primed so much, so to speak, to be with that person and pull all the interesting things out of that person. Everyone has very interesting parts of them, but a lot of times they're just covered up with things, people's feelings about themselves, insecurities, past traumas, and things like that. So with me, it's the work is just what's my favorite part of it. Doesn't matter who comes in. I will eventually have an interesting conversation with them.
Doctor, I wonder if I could project these questions to you. I read a book by a fellow from the University of Chicago named Mortimer Adler. He wrote it in 1943. He made certain remarks in it that extremely interested me. You'll probably agree with these remarks. He said, if you attempt to learn through images, whether it's movies or television or maybe even computers, he says it's drugs. He says they're drugs. You're not going to learn anything. He said they're drugs. I think he's right,
Well, he is right. And what happens is, and the reason for that is it's fast and repetitive. And there's your formula to get addicted to things. If you watch what happened during even the beginning of the pandemic, the news grabbed it. It was a new headline every day. It was fast. It was visual. It grabbed every part of your brain. And then once people started to really get themselves involved in it, then the pace picked up. And then, of course, everyone threw as much as they could into it. But he's right. It stimulates the brain, and when it does, it has the same effect that an addiction has on you, and then you can't put it down. And people will actually go into depressions when things like that end. They'll look for something else to pick up and run with.
But let me ask you, when you go to a movie or watch a TV show, as opposed to reading a fairly complex work of fiction, which people less and less do, I think, but I don't know. Depends on the person, I guess, or their work. But he said we're passive in images. Our minds are passive. Mm-hmm. They're not connecting. They're not being used. I don't think so. Are they?
Well, he's right. What happens when you watch something, you tend to just I think people will tell you, well, I just want to throw something on television and relax and just kind of not have to think. Now, if you're reading a book, your goal, your motivation is to think.
That's
You
right.
have to. But when you sit down with, in front of a television set or a movie or whatever it may be, there are a lot of distractions, and you didn't go there. You didn't go there. Very few people go to the television to learn. They'll all tell you they do, but it's not like people are feasting on slow-moving documentaries where they can learn piece by piece. They're going as fast as they can. They either want to be stimulated to the point that it takes their mind and just plays with it, or they want to just surrender their mind and do next to nothing. So
He also said that you probably will agree with this, and Peter, I don't mean to take your place. I'm not that way.
It's fine.
But I'm very happy that you gave me this opportunity.
Absolutely.
But the fact of the matter is that Adler said that we want to read books that will raise our intellects, that will push us up in thinking. That's what he said. He's right. But people don't want to do that.
No, because we are becoming a society that moves fast, and our mantra, if you will, is go fast and put as little into it as you can and maximize your output as much as you can. So we don't want that learning process. We don't want all that effort and all that work and all that commitment. And that's a problem. We are no longer loving the process of learning. We want the end result as fast as we can get it.
Let me ask you this. Let's look at the past. What people may have read or didn't read. Maybe they read Karl Marx. It's a possibility, isn't it?
Sure.
But I have a book of Marx at home. It's quite involved thought. Do you think people at that time, their minds were better developed?
Well, their literary minds were better developed. Absolutely. A premium was put on reading. It's not that way anymore. I mean, you can go into the schools, they're not teaching cursive anymore. They're not spending a whole lot of time reading, and much of what's being done is done online. Kids get a notepad or a laptop once they're in third or fourth grade at this point. So much of what they're doing is audio visual, and the schools defend it by saying they're addressing more parts of the mind. But the problem is, the reading will fall by the wayside. And unfortunately, I think as we progress through our society, reading is going to fall back even farther. Even now, we're seeing the boom in audiobooks. When I put my book out, we put one in print, and then we did one for the laptop, for the notebooks and things like that. And they said, no, you're also going to have to get an audiobook out there. And I said, whoa, you have to have it. They said, if you're going to do this and you don't put an audiobook out, you'll be behind. So we did an audiobook.
So would you assess the situation today, looking at books in the past, whatever William James, whoever you may name, he was a philosopher. Mm-hmm. Those books were difficult. They were demanding, and yet people may have read them.
Many of us read them. I read James when I was in college, and it was fascinating work. And even if it didn't keep you right on their thought, it kept you in a thinking kind of perspective where you always wanted to expand on what you heard. You asked more questions. You connected more dots. We're not doing that today. Society is not going that deep, and often discouraging that.
But do you think those books in today's societies are too hard?
I don't think they're too hard. I just think that we're not putting the effort out. And unfortunately, as we continue not to put the effort, then it will become hard, because we won't understand how to do it anymore.
I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Peter, go ahead. Let's hear what you hear from you.
These are really good questions, Andrew. I like that.
Well, thanks a lot.
Anytime.
Well, let me put it this way. I asked the doctor before, was the society intellectually more elite?
Yes, and I think so. I mean, I'm one for defining terms, and when we talk about elite, was it an academic society? That yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
They were more academic.
Absolutely, and prided themselves on that. And sometimes that got away from them, where the ability to apply what they were learning wasn't always there. But that's really what I hope we're working for here, is to be able to read these things, be able to understand things, be able to apply them. I make my work as applied as I can for people, because I don't want them to get lost in just the process or the philosophy of what I'm talking about. But the ability to teach people through written word and have them apply what you're teaching, that's really, I think, should be the goal.
It appears that until fairly recently, people were able to read more involved print.
Yes, and one
could be Freud. It was one example. These people had an audience in that society at that time. They do not have an audience now.
They do not, and people are shying away from that. And there's been just so many. The pace of the culture is huge. I think that you have to look at substance abuse as part of that, because we are an entertainment-based society. Before you're talking about being an academic society or a learning society previously, we are an entertainment-based society.
That's right.
Today.
It's true.
and that's unfortunate, because it's great to have some entertainment, but unfortunately that has now taken center stage. And that, between that and the speed of the society, and just the changes that we haven't learned how to address yet. I remember when I was a kid, the changes from when I was 10 to the time I was 40, they were there. Nothing like what's happened since I've been 45 to 67. That's a whole different level of change. It's extremely fast, and I don't think we've learned how to live in this internet society. I don't think we know how to behave there yet. We're really one generation into it. That's really all we are. It's a very, very small amount of time.
Sometimes I see the books that are recently published, and I compare them with the books I just mentioned.
Yeah.
They are simplified.
They are.
They are simplified presentations.
Andrew, when I wrote the book, I initially, my first book, and the editor got it, and she says, "You are going to have to take this down to a 9th grade level." I said, "A 9th grade level?" She says, "Yeah, because everyone reading self-help would be reading at that level. And even if they're not, even if the 30s crowd, and which is going to be your primary your reading audience, there you might get it to 11th grade." And I thought,
what about 6th grade? You think 6th grade is a possibility?
Well, it's going down. They're just not reading anymore.
Is that the level of prose that people are able to handle?
The level of prose is going down considerably. Punctuation, everything is just down. At the times when people send me emails and I have to really slow down and to see where the sentence ended.
That's right.
And the next one's beginning. And we didn't end things with pronouns, and we and all those kinds of things. They break all the rules. And so I've had writers say to me, "You're a writer." They've said to me that they are told that most people read at a 6th grade level. Yeah, and they're probably right. The comprehension is, they can read through it. They'll get up to that 9th and 10th grade, but their ability to comprehend everything they're reading, that's a whole different story.
Wow.
Go ahead, Peter. Put your thoughts in.
Well, actually, we have reached the end of that's all we have for this episode. It was great hearing you here, Faust, talking about your works as a psychologist, your book, and a lot of great questions by Andrew. It's been quite an episode.
Well,
I enjoyed it.
Hey,
and
John,
I did also.
Hey, how you doing?
Yes, Faiffy?
Real quick, can you send me, if Mr. Faust won't mind, can you send me his contact information so I could eventually have him I can't speak right now. If I could possibly have him on my podcast one of these weeks, if he's all right with it.
You can find my information online. It's my name, FaustRuggiero.com. It'll get you to my website, or type in the Fix Yourself Handbook, and that'll get you there too. But the website has everything you need about the books, the contact information, everything is there.
I also have his email. I can send it over to you, Faiffy, so you two can reach out to each other.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
And until next time, stay tuned for more.